to show you how to make a simple fondant cross cake topper using my trace cut and smooth method. To start, I have Gumtex powder, Tylose powder, CMC powder. It's all basically the same thing. I mix it into all of my fondant. I only use marshmallow fondant because I feel like store-bought fondant is way too soft. Sprinkle a little bit onto the fondant, knead it in there, roll it out and let it sit, and it's going to set up so much harder and it's going to be so much easier to cut. I will link this below. So when we are rolling this out, you can't just flatten it and roll it out without paying attention to the back, because look how wrinkly that is. It doesn't look good. So what you want to do is find a smooth area, stretch it out and fold it in on itself. That way there's a smooth top and bottom. Sprinkle down some cornstarch and let's roll this out about 1/4 to 1/2 inch thick so I can fit a skewer underneath and set that aside. Now I measured my cake and I printed that out the size I wanted it to be. I will link this picture down in the description, and I'm using my trace cut and smooth method on here. I'm taking my Dresden tool and lightly tracing that onto the fondant just to transfer the line. And since this is a thicker piece of fondant, I have to make a shallow cut first. So I'm just sticking the tip of the knife into the fondant to create a guideline. This way I won't mess the fondant up when I'm cutting it out. Then when I have that guideline done, I'm sticking the tip of the knife all the way down to the cutting board and cutting this out using that line as a guide. Since I made that line first, the guideline first, I'm not going to distort the top edge of the piece as I cut the rest of this fondant away. And anytime you cut anything out of fondant, there's going to be jagged edges. You need to take the time and use your tools and your fingers to smooth your cut. So I'm just pressing that fondant back down on itself. I flipped it upside down and I'm using my fingers just to smooth those edges to make sure everything looks nice and pretty. Remember, this is going on top of the cake, so it has to look good from both sides. And then I flipped it right side up and I'm smoothing the edges again and using my tools just to press that fondant back down and make it look nice and neat. Let's realign it back on top of the picture so it dries to the correct position. I'm going to set that aside overnight for it to dry. Now I have an 8-inch skewer here and I want to stick it in the very bottom. I'm going to twist it in. Don't jab it in. I'm screwing it in there. That way I don't mess up the fondant. So you can see I'm holding it with my left hand and using my right hand to screw the skewer in, flip it over to make sure that it's not popping out the front or the back. And then once I have it all the way up in there, I'm just going to set that aside while I make this center detail. Now I got this mold years ago. I don't think they still make it, but it does fit the center of that cross perfectly. And I will find one on Amazon, a similar one, and link it below. And what I want to do is get a little bit of Crisco on a paintbrush, and I'm putting a light coating of shortening all on the inside of that mold, and I'm rolling a piece of fondant into a ball, flattening it out, and I want to fill the cavity exactly to the height of the mold. So I had a little too much fondant in there. I have to remove a little bit, and I'm flattening it out so it's as flat as the mold, and I just want to press it in here. You don't want any excess fondant sticking out. It's going to be so much easier to remove it. I'm dipping my fingers in cornstarch so my fingers don't stick to the fondant and pressing that into the mold. And then I'm going to flip it upside down and carefully peel back the mold so the fondant comes out without getting distorted. And I'm just using my fingers just to smooth that out and getting a little bit of water on the back, and I'm going to stick that down in the center of the cross, and look how pretty that looks. And I want to get a toothpick on either side of the skewer. I do this when I make my toppers. That way when you put it into the cake, it's not going to twist or turn. I'm just going to get a little bit of icing on the very bottom where it's going to touch the cake and then stick that in there. And here is the cross. Now she just wanted a white on white cross, but I've made so many variations of this. So you can see this one has a little more color. It's the white cross with the blue center, and in the very center I have a little silver circle. And similarly, I have the white cross with the pink center, and in the very center of the pink I did a white circle. And on this one I have the blue and the white detail. So you can see you can change it up with the colors and the styles of what you want to do with this cross. And this one was for a birthday as well, so I put a number 1 in the center. I painted the cross gold. And this one I did a white cross and I painted the whole center section gold. And in this one I have a smaller center section and I added a little detail to each of the arms of the cross. So think outside of the box when you're doing this. I hope this helped. Let me know if you guys have any questions below, and make sure you follow or subscribe for more cake decorating tips.